This woman was on the verge of being executed in the electric chair when she said something surprising. What she said could completely change what everyone thought they knew. Lorena's trial turned into a spectacle, attracting the attention of the entire city with the intensity of a television drama. The daily headlines painted Lorena not only as guilty, but as a heartless monster, capturing the public's imagination and disdain. Newspapers and news channels competed to offer the most sensational coverage, often at the expense of the truth. Inside the crowded courtroom, the tension was palpable. Each day of the trial, the galleries filled with onlookers and activists, some clamoring for justice, others simply seeking entertainment. Lorena's defense struggled against a tide of prejudice, trying to present facts and evidence that rarely found space in the dominant narrative outside the courtroom. On one particularly charged afternoon, the prosecutor addressed the jury with theatrical fervor. "Ladies and gentlemen, what we have before us is an act so vile, so devoid of humanity, that it shocks the conscience of our community. How can someone look into the eyes of an innocent child and then—" His voice trailed off into a dramatic silence, staring intently at Lorena, as if daring her to interrupt him. Lorena's defense. A court-appointed lawyer, given the difficult task of changing the tide of public opinion, stood up. His voice was firm but clearly worn from the battle he faced. "What truly shocks the conscience, ladies and gentlemen, is how easily we forget one of the pillars of our justice system, the presumption of innocence. My client has been judged by the media and condemned by public opinion before even setting foot in this courtroom." On the streets, opinions about Lorena were polarized but predominantly negative. Protest groups gathered daily outside the courthouse, armed with signs bearing slogans like "Justice for Valentina" and "Out with Lorena." Interviews with the protesters frequently appeared in the news, further fueling the atmosphere of a public trial. "She doesn't deserve compassion," one woman said passionately to the camera. "She stole the life of a child. Justice must be served." In this charged environment, social media buzzed with debates and theories about the case, many echoing the baseless accusations spread by the press. Lorena's image was distorted beyond recognition, transformed from a woman into a caricature of evil, condemned not by evidence, but by a narrative constructed to sell. Newspapers and news channels were driven by the desire to boost ratings, while Lorena sat in the defendant's seat, absorbing every word spoken. A sense of isolation enveloped her as she realized that the chances of a fair trial were diminishing with each passing day, as collective hysteria obscured the facts of the case. Amid the noise and condemnation, she clung to the only thing she had left: the truth about her innocence, a truth that seemed increasingly distant in the media circus her trial had become. Amid the whirlwind of accusations and the media frenzy surrounding her, Lorena remained an enigmatic figure of serenity, a living counterpoint to the collective hysteria consuming the city. Her behavior in court, marked by an unwavering calm, intrigued everyone from the judge to the journalists covering every moment of the trial. One particularly tense afternoon, after a parade of circumstantial evidence presented by the prosecution, Lorena's lawyer approached her, his expression filled with concern. "Lorena, we need you to speak, to tell your version of events. Silence only fuels speculation. We can dismantle the accusations with the truth," he whispered, hoping for a response that could change the course of the trial. However, Lorena remained steadfast, looking him directly in the eyes with a clarity that seemed to transcend the courtroom walls. "No matter what I say," she responded, her voice low but filled with a quiet strength. "The truth I carry with me challenges what they want to believe. My words would be just another whisper in the whirlwind of their convictions." Intrigued and frustrated, the lawyer insisted, but the truth is the ally of justice. We must trust that it will prevail despite the odds." Lorena smiled faintly, not with disdain, but with a deep understanding born from her journey. The truth is a solitary companion in times of injustice. It stays with me even when the world turns against me. It is in this truth that I find my peace, not in any acquittal they might offer. Despite her lawyer's persistence, Lorena chose the path of silent dignity, facing the looks of doubt and judgment with a poise that defied explanation. Her calm was not a surrender, but a declaration of inner strength, a refusal to be shaken by the storms around her. This mystery surrounding her tranquility only heightened public fascination and speculation. How can she remain so calm? Reporters questioned in the evening news. What secret does she hide behind her silence? For Lorena, however, this serenity was not a calculated strategy. It was a refuge. A space of clarity amid the chaos allowed her to face the future, whatever it might be, with her head held high. She knew that regardless of the verdict, the truth about herself was something no one could take away. Her inner peace became her most powerful shield, a silent testament to her innocence in a world that seemed to have forgotten how to listen. In the cold and grim cell that Lorena had called home for the past few years, the eve of her execution arrived with an oppressive quiet, a silence before the storm. As the night deepened, her thoughts swirled with distant memories, shattered dreams, and a future that would never come to be. It was in this desolate setting that Judge Adriano chose to make his appearance, as if to personify the hand of fate bearing down on her. With a smile that didn't reach his eyes, Adriano entered the cell, his imposing figure silhouetted against the dim light of the corridor. "Lorena," he began, his voice laden with calculated coldness, "I thought I'd come to see how you spend your final hours. I find it educational." Lorena, rising slowly, faced him with a mix of surprise and disgust. "Have you come to mock me, Adriano? To witness firsthand the suffering you helped create?" "Mock you?" Adriano laughed, a humorless sound. "No, Lorena, I came because I wanted you to know that you won. Your pain, your imminent end. This is my revenge. It's all I have left now." She watched him, each word cutting deeper than the chains that bound her. "Do you think this hurts me, Adriano? My pain will soon end, but you will have to live with what you've done, with the lies you've told. That is worse than any execution." Adriano stepped closer to the bars, his gaze hardening. "Do not underestimate the depth of my hatred, Lorena. When you are gone, I will find the justice I deserve in your death. Your hatred only reveals who you truly are, Adriano. You can take my life, but you can never bury the truth. It will live on, while your lies will die with you." For a moment, Adriano seemed to falter, as if Lorena's words had struck a chord within him. But then he recomposed himself, his face hardening into a mask of disdain once more. "Enjoy your last hours, Lorena, for they are all you have left." With those final words, Adriano turned and left, leaving Lorena alone with her thoughts and the starless night. The visit brought no comfort, no resolution, only a cruel reminder of betrayal and loss. However, it also reinforced in Lorena a steely determination, a refusal to let Adriano's hatred define her final moments. Even in the darkness, she clung to a thread of hope, a whisper of truth that might still somehow emerge. In the execution room, a heavy silence hung in the air, thick as fog. Prison staff, journalists with special permission, and a small group of onlookers and local authorities filled the space, their expressions ranging from morbid expectation to palpable discomfort. The attention was almost tangible, as if everyone present shared a collective breath, waiting for the final act of the drama that had captured the nation's attention. Lorena, with her wrists and ankles restrained, was led to the chair that would be the instrument of her death. Despite her pallor, her face emanated a defiant serenity. Her eyes scanned the room, noting every detail, every face, until they fixed on Adriano. Unlike his usual confident demeanor, he appeared uneasy, his expression rigid. When the officer approached to ask if she had any last words, Lorena took a deep breath, her firm voice breaking the sepulchral silence. "Yes, I do. And what I am about to say could change everything." Everyone in the room leaned in, a murmur of surprise running through the audience. Even Adriano seemed to hold his breath, a shadow of worry crossing his face. "I am the mother of Valentina, the girl everyone thinks is dead. She is alive," Lorena announced, each word laden with an intensity that reverberated through the room. A collective shock was palpable, as if the very air. Time seemed to stand still. Adriano abruptly stood up, his chair creaking under the sudden movement. "This is absurd. She's trying to manipulate the system," he shouted, attempting to control the narrative, but his voice betrayed a slight tremor. Lorena continued, ignoring the interruption. "She is with Adriano's grandparents in a place he calls hell. Check before it's too late." The room erupted into chaos. The officer in charge of the execution hesitated, looking to his superiors for guidance. The murmurs grew louder, everyone trying to grasp the implications of this revelation. One of Lorena's lawyers, acting quickly, stepped forward. "We demand an immediate suspension of this execution. There are new pieces of evidence that need to be investigated." Adriano, now visibly shaken, tried to maintain his facade of indignation. "She's lying. This is a desperate trick." However, the seed of doubt had been planted. The prison warden, a middle-aged man with a now gravely serious expression, nodded to the officer. "Suspend the execution. We will investigate this claim immediately." As Lorena was removed from the electric chair, the look she exchanged with Adriano was one of such intensity that only the most observant noticed. It was a look that spoke volumes without words. The truth. Finally, the surface of lies constructed over years began to crack. Lorena's revelation not only halted the execution, but also opened a vortex of possibilities that could completely redefine the case. The fate of Lorena, Valentina, and even Adriano now hung by a thread of uncertainties and imminent revelations. Following Lorena's shocking disclosure, authorities launched an urgent investigation. The claim that Valentina was alive and hidden with Adriano's grandparents turned the case upside down. The attention of the entire nation was now focused on the unfolding drama. In a stark interrogation room with bare walls and a metal table between them, Adriano sat. His once imposing demeanor was now diminished under the weight of the circumstances. Across from him, a seasoned detective prepared to uncover the truth. "Let's clear things up, Adriano. Your relationship with Lorena was more than professional, wasn't it?" began the detective, his words sharp as a blade. Adriano, trying to maintain his composure, hesitated. "It was a complicated relationship, but her allegations are absurd. I would never harm my own daughter." "Complicated doesn't begin to describe it," retorted the detective, spreading out photos and messages exchanged between Adriano and Lorena. "And what about the hell where you supposedly said Valentina was? Coincidentally, it's the same place where your grandparents live. A place you described with those exact words." Adriano swallowed hard, his confident facade beginning to crack. That's irrelevant. They were just words said in the heat of the moment." "No, Adriano, they are pieces of a puzzle that we're starting to put together, and all the pieces point to you," the detective said. Meanwhile, police teams arrived at the isolated farm, uncovering a scene no one expected. Valentina, now 8 years old, was playing in the garden under the watchful eyes of an elderly couple who identified themselves as the girl's great-grandparents. "Adriano brought Valentina to us 5 years ago," the great-grandfather explained, his voice trembling. He said her mother had been in a terrible accident, and it was dangerous for Valentina to stay in the city. The discovery was a devastating blow to Adriano's defense. The evidence was undeniable, and his meticulously constructed plot began to unravel. Back in the interrogation room, the detective confronted Adriano with the new evidence. Valentina was found, Adriano, alive with your grandparents, exactly where Lorena said she would be. Realizing the game was over, Adriano lowered his head, his facade finally collapsing. I just wanted to protect my career. I didn't know what else to do. Protect your career at the expense of truth, justice, and even your own daughter, the detective said, his voice laden with contempt. Subsequent investigations revealed the extent of Adriano's scheme. He had manipulated the evidence to frame Lorena, using his influence to orchestrate Valentina's kidnapping, all in a desperate attempt to conceal his extramarital affair and protect his reputation. This revelation rocked both the judicial system and public opinion. Adriano was stripped of his title and faced serious criminal charges, while Lorena was finally vindicated, emerging not only as innocent, but also as the true victim of a monstrous injustice. The collapse of Adriano's deception not only cleared Lorena's name, but also exposed the dark depths to which someone could sink to protect their own lies. In the wake of the shocking revelations and Lorena's exoneration, the case took an unexpected turn. As Adriano faced the legal consequences of his actions, public and media attention remained focused on Lorena and Valentina, now reunited under extraordinary circumstances. However, the story that unfolded next was one of healing and discovery rather than a fresh start. After her release, Lorena and Valentina faced the challenge of building their relationship from scratch. Although Valentina was alive, her memories of her mother were clouded, mixed with the false stories concocted by Adriano. Lorena, in turn, grappled with the guilt and pain of years lost. Alongside the challenge of reintroducing herself to her daughter as her true mother, rather than seeking isolation, Lorena chose to settle in the same city where the entire ordeal had unfolded. She felt that fleeing would be akin to admitting defeat, something she refused to do after fighting so hard to clear her name. With the compensation money from the wrongful conviction, Lorena established a support center for women and children who were victims of legal injustices and abuses of power. Valentina, inspired by her mother's strength and resilience, became actively involved in the project. Together, they transformed their story of pain and suffering into one of empowerment and service. The center quickly became a beacon of hope and a vital resource for the community, gaining national recognition for its work. Adriano, now disgraced and serving his sentence, watched from afar as the repercussions of his actions unfolded. In an ironic twist, the institution founded by Lorena emerged as a leading advocate for reforms in the judicial system, using Lorena's case as a case study to highlight the need for change. Over the years, as Valentina grew and became a passionate advocate alongside her mother, the story of Lorena and Valentina inspired many. They became symbols of perseverance, justice, and the human spirit's ability to turn adversity into positive action. The relationship between Lorena and Valentina. Although Valentina was initially marked by strangeness and trauma, she gradually flourished over time. Together, they learned to navigate the ups and downs of their rekindled bond, united not only by blood, but by a shared mission. At a fundraising event for the center, Lorena stood before the audience, enveloped in a wave of gratitude and purpose. Valentina stood by her side, strong and vibrant, embodying the hope her mother had always believed existed even in the darkest times. "My journey," Lorena began, addressing the audience, "has been marked by unimaginable despair, But look where we are now and see what we can achieve together. This is redemption, not only for me, but for all the voices silenced by injustice. The story of Lorena and Valentina did not conclude in the tranquility of a country home, but in the vibrant activity of a community united by a common purpose. They did not seek to forget the past, but to use it as a foundation for building a better future for others facing similar circumstances. The end of their story was not merely about personal recovery, but of collective contribution, a lesson in how adversity can be transformed into action, change, and ultimately hope. If you were moved by this journey from hardship to a new beginning, please like and support us. Share in the comments what touched your heart most about this story and how you believe love and hope can transform lives. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel for more inspiring stories like this one that remind us of the strength of the human spirit and our capacity to start anew. Your interaction makes a difference. Together, let's spread messages of hope and renewal.